In today's episode, we spoke about confidence, finding your purpose, and tips for student success. This is the story of Gurupma Singh, founder of G-Team Academy. So, firstly, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Gurupma Singh. I study mechanical engineering at Loughborough University, but over the last year, I actually started my own business called G-Team Academy, which helps young adults to build confidence, structure, and direction within their lives.
Okay, awesome. And have you always felt that you've had a sense of direction then, if that's the purpose of your business?
No, actually, I think that for me, it was more like I didn't have a full sense of direction, and I don't really feel like I got the support that I needed to figure out what that sense of direction was, which is what motivated me to start my business. So when I was in A-levels, I was like, okay, I'm going to be a doctor. That was my intention. I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a doctor.
Could never be me.
Nah, honestly, looking back, it could never be me either. But I was thinking, yeah, I'm going to be a doctor. And I was so uncertain. I ended up doing dentistry work experience. I was thinking about being an accountant, and then engineering was on the table as well. So I literally had no idea, what should I go for? What is most aligned with my own personal values? What would I enjoy doing? And because I didn't have a clue, I was just I just went through it and I went for engineering because it seemed like the most feasible option for me. But even when I was going into engineering, I knew that this wasn't where my heart was. I enjoy engineering and I can get good grades in it. And I know that if I had a job in engineering, that would be good. But deep down, I know that's not where my purpose lies, which is what kind of inspired me to start thinking about this more. And what happened is, the more I thought about it, the more I started to develop skills around understanding your purpose, goal setting, time management, these kind of things. And I realized that most people our age don't focus on that at all. They just go through the education system, and even though they know that their heart's not set on what they're doing, they just do it anyways because that's what everyone else is doing. And I didn't want to be like that. I wanted to find out if this is one life, I don't want to just spend it doing something for the sake of it. Yeah, exactly.
So if you had to sum up your purpose in a sentence or so, what would you say that it is?
Okay, so
and I guess if it's different than the purpose of your business, then that as well.
Right. Okay. So I think they're very, very similar. The main purpose that I have behind what I'm doing is to give back as much as I can in any way that I can to the people that are around me. And that purpose is nice because it doesn't make a difference where I am in life. I can always give back to people. And what ties in very strongly with giving back to other people is me being the best version of myself. Those two things are the core of what I do within my own life and also what I do within G-Team. So for me to be able to give to other people, I have to have something. And for me to have something, I have to be the best I can be, right? So my purpose is very much about doing things for other people and seeing how much I can actually do within this one life in the realm of giving back to others. Because I believe that anything that you do for yourself isn't really worthwhile. It's going to die with you. Anything that you do for others can live on forever. But if it's just for you, then you're the only one that gets to experience it. And I feel like life is not meant to be experienced by yourself.
And what does it look like? Sorry. What does it look like being the best version of yourself? What does that look like to someone?
It's different for everyone. For me, it changes year on year. But the way that I try to be the best version of myself is I'll pick one thing to focus on that I want to improve and then improve that. So I'll constantly reprioritize, say, okay, these are my weaknesses. These are the things that I need to improve on. These are the things I would like to get better at. And then I pick one and then I just work on that one at a time, one thing at a time. And I think the best version of yourself depends on what your priority is or what is your ultimate goal that you want to work on. So it really does change. I can't give you a specific description. At the moment, for me, it's about being able to run a business. Not because I want to show people I can run a business or anything like that, but the person you have to become to run a business is very advanced compared to who I am today, if that makes sense. So that's the challenge that I'm taking on at the moment, and that's the best version of me. I can see a lot of development for myself by taking on this responsibility.
What would you say is the biggest part of growth that you've seen within yourself since taking on a new venture?
That's difficult. There's a lot of different moments that I'm thinking that, they definitely test me. I think the most difficult thing is to actually just sit with people and understand them on a deeper level, because I work with a team of people, and when I'm working with a team, it's very difficult to really get to know what's going on in different people's heads. And I think that level of empathy and listening and understanding and even studying like the science behind why people act the way that they do, that's been really challenging. But by observing other people, I've learned so much about myself as well. Like when I see flaws in other people, I'm like, oh, they do this. And then I think about it, I'm like, oh, I do that as well. So you have a lot of responsibilities as well. Like there's a lot of things that you do. Yeah. And I know that you're very much about the kind of like entrepreneur lifestyle. How have you found like developing yourself through the different responsibilities that you have?
So I took on this job after graduating in July because I knew I needed a gap before the big corporate life to work on my confidence and myself. So I guess that's kind of where I wanted to spin this conversation with like, how does one build their confidence?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the first thing that you have to do to build your confidence is create an environment where you can feel comfortable. I think a lot of the time people are in really negative situations around really negative people, and even if you start working on your confidence, then people are just going to strip it away from you like all the time. So what I would suggest is, firstly, like the most basic thing is find an environment where you're not going to be as affected of other people's opinions. You're not going to be as effective about what other people are saying. And then to actually build your confidence, it's weird because I think the only way to build your confidence is to have a reason to build your confidence. You have to have a purpose behind it because it's not an easy thing to do. And there's going to be plenty of reasons for you to not build your confidence, if that makes sense. So with that, find a reason. Why do you want to build your confidence? Ask yourself that question. Why is it important that you do it? Is it because you want to have a good life, right? Is it because when you're more confident, you can help other people? Is it because by being more confident, you can do the things that you want to do with your life? And figure out what your reason is before you actually start building your confidence. Once you know your reason, get very concrete on that, right? Get very concrete on that. And then the method that I teach people is to develop confidence through something that is unbreakable. So a lot of the time, like, people's confidence might be based on how they look, but that's weak. And the reason it's weak is because how you look is going to change. How you look, you're not always in control of. You're born with certain features. The way that you look isn't always determined by yourself, right? For me, I put my confidence in the fact that I'm a learner. Now, it doesn't make a difference what age I am. It doesn't make a difference where I am. It doesn't make a difference who I'm with. If my confidence is I'm going to learn something out of this situation, then I can always develop, right? I can be confident in that I'm a learner. And people have it in different things. People can have it in like, oh, everything's going to work out. Everything happens for a reason. God's got my back. Whatever it is that you want to have your reason in, as long as it's not dependent on the situation you're in, you can start to build confidence that isn't ever going to change, right? And I think that's the most problematic thing that people do. They put their confidence, they give that confidence away into things that they don't control. And that's what I would say. If you want to build your confidence, put it in something that is never going to change.
That's really good advice. I've never heard anyone say that before. Would you say you've always been confident? And if not, where's your confidence stemmed from?
I don't think I've always been confident. So when I was growing up, my parents were quite like overprotective. They didn't really let me go out and do things. But the thing that I learned during that process was just to like kind of sit back and observe how people act. And when I was doing that, I started to realize, okay, who is it that I wanted to be? And because I had enough time to actually think about who I wanted to be, that instilled confidence in me. But generally, I wasn't that confident. I wasn't someone that was always putting my hands up in class. I wasn't someone that was like always taking on new challenges. That came with time, around like 15, 16 years old, when I was like, you know what it is? I don't want to waste my life. And that's where my confidence stemmed from, because I thought, well, in 100 years, none of this is going to matter. This doesn't really mean anything. Again, something that's never going to change. I put my confidence in that and I was like, yeah, doesn't make a difference what happens in 100 years because no one's going to remember it. So I might as well live the best life that I can.
True. It's very true. So I'm getting the vibe that you think self-confidence can be learnt.
Oh, 100%.
Okay, so what's the first step? Find your why.
I think creating the environment is usually a good thing to do. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, like move out or run away from home or something like that. It can literally just be like just go to your room, all right, go for a walk. Just do something where you can be alone with your thoughts and actually start to manage them, start to think about what's going on. Because self-confidence, someone who's confident, someone who's not confident can have the exact same biology, the exact same life experiences. But the only difference is that the confident person knows how to manage their thoughts. They know which things that they want to take on. Someone who's not very confident is only going to select the negative thoughts that come to their brain. Now, I don't know if you've seen the Diary of a CEO podcast with Mo Gawda. Probably. With Mo Gawda.
Yes.
There's one part in there where he talks about how your brain is an organ and its role is to produce thoughts, right? But your consciousness, the role of your consciousness is to select the correct thoughts. If you're not self-confident, it's because you're most likely picking out all the negative thoughts. And you should be picking out the positive thoughts. And it's a really slight difference. Like if I'm going to go and do podcast recording, right? I'm like, oh, I'm nervous about it. I don't know how it's going to go. I can think about those thoughts, but really, I can also think about, well, this is a good experience. Someone might learn something. I might learn something. And in 100 years, it's not going to matter anyways.
True.
So it's about selecting those thoughts. But even that in itself takes a lot of time and practice.
Yeah, because I think I get a lot of comments saying that I give off confidence, which is weird because, like, I think in some parts of my life, I am really confident. And then I think to other parts and I'm just like, God, I'm just so far behind people probably my age. So I think it's weird because it comes with a lot of perception as well. So like people just get the confidence vibe from me.
I get the confidence vibe from you.
See, it's weird.
But do you feel like people have always got that confidence vibe from you?
I would say so, yeah.
Always?
I don't, well, maybe not. I know I struggled at school, so probably a lot of like my insecurities and things have come from that. And so like, I wasn't the popular girl at school. I had a very small circle at school. So probably no, I didn't come off as very confident at school. But then I think I like almost proved to myself that I was worth everything that they told me I wasn't.
How did you do that?
Oh God. I think I had inner confidence that I didn't know I had. And sometimes it takes like kind of getting to your lowest to realise that like you are worth more than probably sometimes people think you are. So like on my placement I really did struggle with my confidence. And I think, like I said earlier, coming into this role, this was like my chance to just like focus on myself for like a year. This is obviously like a year job. Just focus on myself and develop myself as much as I physically can. So I'm like taking on basically any opportunity I can in this year and really just trying to see growth in me. And I can already see a lot of growth in me. Like 6 months ago, this would have terrified me. And I weirdly feel fairly comfortable right now. So it is definitely a process. I think a lot of people feel that validation helps as well. Yeah. And I know that I know a lot of people feel like validation helps with their confidence as well. But I know kind of relying on external validation probably isn't a good way to go.
Yeah, it is. So the thing is, like, even with like the work that we do, I use a lot of validation with the people that I coach. Like I'll say like, well done, you've done this right. Because a lot of the time people don't know what things they should be validating. And if I say, and then we've got a community also, like they do something like, and they send it in the chat and then everyone celebrates it with them, then they're going to feel like, you know what it is, I've actually done something good here. And if they've never heard that before, someone needs to instill that. And it can be very difficult to do yourself. It's possible. It's definitely possible. Because I would say that's the way that I did it. Just literally like, there was no one when I started out like trying new things, saying good things about it. And it was mainly people saying that, why are you doing this for? Or making fun or things like that. So that in itself, just like giving people some sort of validation can help them to lay the foundations. But then after that, there's a point where you have to exceed that by yourself. But even if you get your foundations laid by some validation in the right direction, that's completely fine. I
think it's the over-reliance though, isn't it?
Like, yeah.
like certain people who I know, like they kind of rely on it to the point where that kind of controls them. When obviously that's like probably not ideal.
Yeah, no, it definitely isn't ideal, because then your life is determined by what they say about you.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, thinking back on it, I think even the validation that I got, because I didn't have anyone that I could speak to about this kind of stuff, I'd watch YouTube videos. And in the YouTube videos, it'd be people that like inspired me, people like, even like Eric Thomas, Tony Robbins, like that kind of vibe. And that was my validation in a sense. Like, these people who are like millionaires that have done so much with their life, they're saying that you should do this kind of stuff. And when I looked at them, I thought, well, these things are possible, right? And then when someone told me that it isn't possible, I would think, okay, well, this guy's a millionaire, this guy's doing this, he's changing lives, he's inspiring people. You got a part-time job, like you don't really do much. Like, and it's not a dig on them, but it's just like, well, who do I want to put as my role model? Whose opinion am I going to listen to more? And it's not going to be the person that hasn't done anything with their life.
So whose opinion matters to you about you?
That's a good question. I think my close friends, because they keep me in check. My team, definitely. And I think religion's starting to play a bigger influence into what I listen to and what's right and wrong. I think social media is getting to the point where you can listen to people on there and you know, like, oh yeah, this is good or bad. You can genuinely differentiate. But because there's so much content out there, it's really difficult to get your values from social media, because a lot of the values are determined by like 16-year-olds sitting on the computer typing comments, things like that. And it's like, it's not a good place for you to actually structure your life from. And I think most people growing up, that's all they've had to structure their life from. So I try to step back from there and actually use things that work for me in reality, not on social media.
Do you have a set of core values that you like live your life by?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if I could list them to you in terms of all of them, but I could definitely list some of them to you. One of them is, if I say something, I have to mean it. If I don't mean it, don't say it. Because when you say something, it's a lot more powerful than just words. When you speak, you're actually telling your consciousness what you think. And if that's not aligned with what's going on inside, there's a big problem that you've got going on. If you're lying about something, whether or not you want to accept that's a problem, it's going to bite you in, but it's going to be a problem for you later on. And it doesn't make a difference who you're lying to. It doesn't make a difference what you're lying about. That's something that you've got to be very, very careful of. And every time I speak now, I have to be careful about, are the things that I'm saying actually part of my belief, or are they adopted things that I've just thought, oh yeah, this will get me out of trouble, or this will please someone else.
This will be right to say, or...
Yeah, exactly. So I think being careful with what I say. Humility, this is the one that I struggle with the most, but it's a constant battle. I think that even with the space that we're in, when you do good things, like you're doing a podcast, right? You can go and tell people I'm doing a podcast, and it's easy for your ego to be inflated by that. It's really easy. And especially when people are saying, oh, you're great, you're so good at this, they're constantly reaffirming you, and I'm sure they will. And for you to then bring yourself back to reality and be like, oh, actually, yeah, these things are good, but I'm still human, I'm still like normal, I still have to treat everyone else with the same respect. Even if someone's like a lot further behind in their journey, I have to, like, they're still human. They were where I used to be. And treating people with respect and humility is something that, it's not that I find it challenging, but just internally, the ego, keeping that in check is something that I have to actively work on. And then the third one is surrounding myself with people that inspire me. Everyone on my team inspires me. The people that I'm here with today inspire me. Like, everything that I do, if the people around me aren't motivating me to be better, aren't helping me to move forward, aren't giving me something to even think about, then I'm in the wrong place.
So you must have dealt with that, like being surrounded by toxic people. Have you ever had to like cut someone out?
Yeah, I have.
How? What's the best way of doing that?
Well, I think it was easier for me because when growing up, like I said, I didn't speak to many people. So I always knew how to keep my distance. My parents, like I said, they're always overcautious. They say, don't spend too much time with that person. Don't do this, don't do that. And at the time, I hated it because I was like, I'm not making friends the way I'd like to. But it taught me, like, you know what it is? Watching people, like, you can't just dive into friendships. You can't just dive into these things. You can't just trust people immediately. You've got to weigh out, like, okay, look, what is this person like? What is their character showing? Because then I don't get myself into situations where I'm really close friends with toxic people. And if I am, which I have been, it's been very challenging for me to get out of it. I think it actually almost naturally goes away when you focus, like, because I focus on my business so much. If people aren't supporting me to be the best version of myself, if people aren't supporting me to help others, then it becomes obvious, like, oh, do they actually care about me? Yeah. Yes or no? And our paths will automatically start to separate. When you align yourself with good things constantly, every time you make a good decision and then make a bad decision, you get further and further away anyways. So if you just focus on yourself, even if you don't work actively on like separating yourself from them, as long as you work on yourself being the best you can be, if they don't want to catch up with you, that's on them. And it's not to say, oh, leave other people behind or do this or do that, but that's the way that things have worked for me. And that separation just naturally starts occurring.
And what would you say is your biggest strength?
I think I've got a very good work ethic.
And that's always been the case? Or you've trained yourself because you know that, like, that's what you want? And I guess when you work for yourself, like, you have to find a lot more motivation within yourself because no one else is going to do it.
Yeah, exactly. The amount of decisions that you have to make in terms of, like, just like, this is how we're going to do it, this is why we're going to do it, like, the amount of times you've got to constantly go through that, the amount of times that clients will come back and say, actually, I don't want to do this anymore, or I want to do something different, or we're going to change this, or there's always something coming up, there's always some problem. I think the way that I've dealt with that is just by, like, in the long run, it's all going to come out in the wash, because as long as I'm working hard consistently, I can set myself up in the future and it'll be fine, and I'll be fine. And it has been, and now, like, even now, I haven't made it per se, but I know that by constantly just putting in work, all the problems that I have, they tend to just fade away anyways. And it doesn't make a difference if I'm working on my business, if I'm working on myself, if I'm working on relationships that I have, like, whatever it is that I've got within my life, as long as I'm working on it, things work out.
That's really good advice. What would you say is your biggest, I don't want to say weakness, but something that you're working the hardest on right now?
I don't think it's necessarily my biggest weakness, but the biggest thing that I'm trying to change about myself is my confidence. I'm quite a confident person. Who would have thought it? See, the thing is, I come across as quite confident, and I feel quite confident day to day, and, like, I can go up in crowds and I speak to, like, hundreds of people or whatever, and I'm comfortable doing it. But I still think the level of self-belief that I have isn't as high as it should be. So I look at people like Muhammad Ali, and I'm like, he had so much self-belief. It drove him to do things that no one else could do. And I think that my self-belief of, like, you know, is, even though I see myself as ahead of most people in terms of, like, my own confidence, I know that there's still more to do. I know that it's still not as strong as it could be. And I think if I had more self-belief, I would take more risks. I'd be more willing to open myself up to different opportunities. But I think all that comes with time.
So what steps are you taking at the minute to specifically tackle that?
I'm watching a lot more content from people that I think have got that. It's no one in my circle has the level of self-belief that I would like to have. So I've got to go and find things that other people are doing which are going to inspire me to do that. So one thing is content. Other things is just pushing myself to ridiculous limits. Because when things are tough, your self-talk comes out always. And I always try to be very careful about my self-talk. And that's a massive factor with confidence. But when things are difficult, like let's say you're exercising, you're on the treadmill, you're running, you start getting tired. And your self-talk kicks in. Do I believe that I can actually do this? The second you concede your belief that you can accomplish a task is the second that you actually fail. And I constantly try to tell myself that I'm going to do this. So this month I'm doing 10,000 push-ups, right, in November. And that was my challenge. And it had absolutely nothing to do with physically, oh, can I do 10,000 push-ups? It was mentally. I know that there's going to be times in this where I'm going to think, should I quit? There's been days where, like, 4 or 5 days go by and I haven't done push-ups. And there's been times where I'm like, should I not? I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it a different day. But I've put so much pressure on myself to be like, you know what it is? You're going to have to do this. And after this month is over, it doesn't make a difference how difficult it is for me mentally. I can look back on that and be like, I've got something I can call on. Look, when it was difficult, you did it. So every difficulty that I face in the future, I can be like, well, you can do it again. So that's another way that like I'm building my self-belief. I'm building my confidence up. But it's a continuous process. It really is a continuous process.
You mentioned self-talk, which means like self-sabotage, right?
No, positive self-talk or negative self-talk.
Ah, okay. So let's go down the negative bit. So how, like, when you hear those negative like things slipping in, do you have a way of like snapping yourself out of it? That's like a tip that, I don't know, I could take home. And like, do you struggle with that a lot?
I think I don't struggle with it a lot. I think I struggle with it when I put myself through stuff. But it's not like, I'm not like sitting at home like having all these negative thoughts or anything like that. And the reason why, it's the same thing, going back to that More Goda podcast, where he said that your brain is an organ. It's going to produce thoughts. It's going to have these ideas. It's up to you which ones you want to take. And when I have negative self-talk, I'm like, yep, okay, that's fine. I know you've said that. I'm not going to listen. I'm going to go and pick something else up. I'm going to go into my memory. I'm going to find a time where I overcame adversity, and I'm going to use that to motivate me. I'm going to think of someone that inspires me. I'm going to use that to motivate me. I'm going to think about what I'm going to accomplish, how I'm going to feel afterwards, and I'm going to use that to motivate me. It's all about selective thinking. So that's how I dictate my self-talk.
And you mentioned about the fact that you could just get up on stage and you feel very comfortable. Has that always been the case?
Well, by comfortable, if I say that I'm going to go and speak to 500 people tomorrow, I know I'm going to do it. But building up to it, I feel very nervous. And my confidence is strong enough for me to get over that. So even though I feel like, I don't feel good about it, I'm not happy about it, it's not a pleasant situation. I still feel uncomfortable. But the reasoning behind what I do, my confidence level is so high that even that little bit of nerves is never going to be enough to stop me from doing it. And probably wouldn't have been the case when I first started out. If someone said do it like when I was like first starting to build my confidence up, it would have been really difficult for me. But even now, after like 3-4 years of like doing talks and things like that, I still get that same feeling. I'm like, I'm not confident, or like I'm nervous, what if this goes wrong? I still get that. But I've built myself up so much in my own self-talk that I'm going to go and do it anyways. And I'm not going to let this feeling of adversity, feeling of nerves stop me from doing this.
So what practical things do you do before a talk to like, you know, build yourself up to go on the stage and like, and, you know, smash it?
Okay, one thing that I do is self-talk. Another thing that I do is, it's not like power posing in like the typical set, but like, it's literally just like lifting my arms up for 10 seconds and then dropping them. And like that, it naturally makes you feel more confident. It's thinking about the reasons behind why I'm doing it. And that's enough for me usually. It's also, a lot of the time I think about, look, my entire team looks at me to be the one that leads things. If I can't pull this off, then they're going to look at me funny. You know, I can't have that because I don't want that for myself. I don't want that for them. And then you've also got the fact that there's an entire audience who are ready to learn something. And even if they don't need it today, they might need it in their future. So I could literally change someone's life. I could literally save someone's life through a talk that I do. I don't know. So am I really going to like turn around and say, no, I don't want to do it? I put too much pressure on myself in a healthy way. It's more of a responsibility that I take on than like a crippling pressure, if that makes sense.
So do you ever deal with imposter syndrome? Or have you ever?
So how do you define imposter syndrome?
I think imposter syndrome is where you feel that you don't belong to be there. So, I don't know, maybe when you're at a networking event, do you ever feel like, oh God, everyone around me is so successful and like, I'm not that successful yet. Obviously, I want to be, but do you know what I mean? Like, how do you find that inner confidence to back yourself? Like,
I think I do, to some degree, think like, oh, do I deserve the position that I have now? And even like the amount that I work, like I work ridiculous hours on my business, on myself and things like that, and I always have. And even with that, I think that, honestly, if I was born in India, or if I was born in a different country, if my parents weren't together, if I didn't have certain things in my life, I'd have nothing. Like if I didn't speak to one person at the right time, nothing. So if I wasn't born in this age where we have so much technology, then I wouldn't have anything. So partially, I think like, oh yeah, do I deserve to be here? But I think that in itself is a humility thing that I actually take as a good thing, and I'm glad that I have that feeling of, realistically, a lot has been done that you didn't even contribute to that has got you to where you are today.
Gratitude.
Yeah, exactly.
How does gratitude play into your day-to-day life? Like, are you an active, like, I journal about gratitude, or are you just more like I reflect when I have, like, you know, when it feels right or something?
I used to journal a lot more about it, and I used to actively spend time to reflect on it, but now I just experience it. What about yourself?
I think it's very easy to not make time for it. Like a lot of things. It's just like you can just make excuses to be like, oh, well, can't be asked today kind of thing. It's something that I want to do more actively. It's something that I've already started to implement a little bit more, but there's definitely like a way to go with that.
How's it helped you so far?
I think it's helped with like deciding what's important to me. So when you kind of know what you're grateful for, you know what you want to prioritize. So like what makes you happy and what's actually bringing you joy versus like what is not really adding any value to your life kind of thing. And I kind of go about it that way. How about you?
Yeah, I feel like it just gives me something more to live for every day. So like, even if I'm just walking and the sun comes out, I genuinely appreciate that. Like deeply, I appreciate that. Even the fact that I have eyes to see it, even the fact that I'm in the right part of the country, like, man, England's weather is so rubbish, right? But even that is enough for me to think like, yeah, I'm glad that I get to experience this. I'm just happy about it. And that's enough for me. Like, and I think when you constantly do that over time, your mood is just better. The way you treat people is better. The way you feel about yourself is better, because you realize that the world is a lot bigger than just me and my own personal experiences. It's about everything else that's going on. And I'm lucky enough to experience this life rather than, oh, I'm lucky enough to have this, I'm lucky enough to have that. It's like, no, like, you are blessed to be on earth. Most people think that, oh, I should have this, and they're born with a level of entitlement. Not even born, sorry. They're conditioned. Like, our generation is massively conditioned to entitlement, and it's causing so many people depression, anxiety, so many problems, because they literally feel like, I deserve this. Why do I not have this? And they've never really seen pain. They've never really seen poverty. And if they've seen it, they haven't experienced it. And if they did, they wouldn't be so entitled. So for me, growing up, I've seen, when I'd go to India, I'd see people on the streets. I'd see kids with no food. I'd see them with like literally like no clothes, nothing. And like even some of them would like just be smiling. They'd just be getting on with their life. And I'm like, all these things that we have, realistically, we don't need them. And the desire and the thought that, oh, I need this to be happy, I need that to be happy. It's like, no, you're lucky enough to be here. Yeah. And if that isn't in your thought process already, then you'll find an uphill battle and it's going to be really difficult for you. Yeah,
it's always the mentality of like, the grass is always greener on the other side. So like, no matter how like happy you are, you always feel like, oh, but if I had this, I'd be happier. Yeah. If I had this,
do you feel
if
like
I had this job, or if I had this car, or yada yada, you know.
Do you feel like you have those thoughts a lot?
I think there's definitely a constant comparison, like for myself. So like I took 2 gap years out, so I'm already behind like all the people who I went to school with. Obviously this is like another year essentially out of not going into like a grad scheme if that's what I decide to do. So like all the people I went on placement with are all kind of settled in their graduate jobs, and obviously I know that this job is temporary.
Yeah.
So I think yes and no. Like I think it's very hard to not compare yourself.
It is. That's ridiculously difficult.
Yeah, because like even if you wouldn't want to be in that position, like it's still like, oh, but look how far they've. You know what I mean?
No,
like
I completely get it, man.
It is hard. It's definitely hard because like I haven't gone down the traditional route of like finishing school, going to uni, getting a grad job. Like I haven't done that. So I think when I look at other people who have, I'm like, oh, well, should I have done that? You know, it's always like, what if, and like, should I have, and that kind of thing. So how about you? Do you ever compare yourself to?
Yeah, I do. I'll compare myself to Mike Tyson, who was heavyweight champion of the world at 20 years old. And I'm like, I'm 22, like, what have I done? Like,
do better.
Yeah, literally, like, I'll have these like, ridiculous comparisons that, like, well, if these people are doing this, like, why can't I? I think one thing that's good is that I'm part of this network of people who are like building their businesses and things like that. And I'm the only brown person, and I'm one of the youngest. Like, I'm very close to being the youngest. And that in my mind kind of like puts me at an advantage, like mentally, because I'm like, oh, actually, I'm not behind. I'm ahead of what a lot of people are actually doing. And it can ground me in a way, but it can also be detrimental because I shouldn't care where they're at. Their experience is completely different. Their life is completely different. Like it doesn't make sense, because even if like I look at you and I'm like, oh, Rachel's doing this, she's got all the enterprise connections, she's doing the podcast, this place looks great. Like, I can look at this and be like, oh yeah, like everything's going great. But I actually, it's so difficult to stress this. Sorry, it's not difficult to stress this. It's so important to stress this. I don't know you. Like, it doesn't make a difference how much I speak to you. It doesn't make a difference how much we talk. I don't actually know what's going on in your head. I don't know all the experiences that you had when you were younger. I don't know every advantage and disadvantage that you've had. And even if I did, it's not my life. Like, how can I then transfer that to me and be like, oh, well, this person's got this and that and that. I'm like, yeah, but it's completely different. It's always completely different.
Yeah.
So I think like comparisons in themselves, they can be a useful tool for you to mature and be like, well, if other people can do it, I'm going to choose the positive thoughts of like, that's inspirational. But that's only if you want to choose the positive thoughts. Why are you going to compare yourself to someone and pick negative thoughts about yourself? Like, it doesn't make sense. But because people don't train their brains, people don't think about these things, and they'll compare themselves and only pick out the negatives. Or why am I not doing better? They don't use it to inspire them. They just use it to pity themselves.
Yeah.
And
so
I'm guilty for that as well.
Yeah. Well, I think it's very hard not to with like the age of social media, which makes me sound really old. But I think the mentality of like, you follow people who are like influencers who are more attractive than you, or, you know, they're all like on holiday jetting off and doing all these. You know what I mean? It's just it's very hard to not be like, oh, well, why can't my life be like that?
Okay, but why do you follow them?
I don't know. Because everyone does, I guess. It's just what you do. I don't know.
Let's say you're scrolling through Instagram and you see a picture of like a celebrity and you're like, oh, you like it or you engage with it. What's the point of engaging with it? What's the point of looking at that picture?
So I think I have definitely cut out some of that. I try to engage with and follow people who aren't toxic to my head, like my brain. But I think it's I don't know. It just seems that that's culture, that it's just constantly comparison, whether you're trying to or not. Like whether you are following them on social media, they might be on your kind of explore page if not, or they're on your kind of like YouTube page, or they're in the news. It's just very like all the time being like, we're successful, you know. So it's hard when I live a very normal life.
Same.
Like it's hard to kind of, I don't know, be like, well, I'm still valid.
Yeah, I think it is very normal to compare yourself to other people, and it is part of the culture. But then you've got to evaluate it and be like, well, is this useful to me or not? And 90% of the things that you consume are not useful to you at all. And the reason why you will continue to consume them is genuinely because you don't have a purpose. You don't have a goal. You don't have something to orient your life. if you had something to orient your life, like a purpose, like I'm trying to help other people, and then you can get more specific about it. I'm going to try and help people by making the environment better, right? You're not just going to consume content on social media anymore. You're going to consume content that's relevant to your purpose. And if you're not consuming content that's relevant to your purpose, it's because you don't feel as connected to your purpose as you could do. So a lot of the things that I consume, sometimes it will be like just random like jokes or memes or whatever like that I see on the internet. But most of the time, it's going to be things that I genuinely feel are going to help me to connect with my purpose more, that are going to inspire me, that are going to be useful for me to then carry out my purpose better. And if you don't have a purpose, you are completely at bay to all these different companies that are designing things to be addictive for you, that are designing things to take your attention away from whatever you're doing so that you can just focus solely on what they want, right? And then who's going to help you? The experts at it. They get paid millions to do this, and you're sitting there on your phone thinking, yeah, I'm not addicted. I'm not addicted. Like, of course you're going to get addicted. So the only real way to get out of that for me is to have something to get you out of it, like have a genuine reason, which is a purpose, in my opinion. And
how do you find your purpose? Like, have you always known, or did you one day sit down, blank sheet of paper, you're like, what's important to me? I don't know, like how... So I think I'm starting to find values that I think are core to kind of like the way I want to be.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess your values constantly change depending on kind of where you are in life. Like if you have a child, your values are probably going to completely change. And the same way, probably, if you set up a business, your values are going to change. But how did you find your values that are core to your kind of, I don't know, your life and how you live your life?
I think experience is a great teacher. I think I learned a lot from experience. Like, even if you just spend the time to reflect on your experiences, be like, okay, what was good? What was bad? If you don't know what your purpose is, right, you can literally just, from today, just be more aware of what's good and what's bad within your life. If I'm going to spend my time doing something, what should I spend it on? If you do that every day for the rest of your life, you're going to find your purpose, no problem, right? But if you don't ever engage in that conversation of what is the most worthwhile thing that I could be doing today, you're never going to find your purpose. And it's a simple conversation with yourself that's constantly had over and over again. Like, I can't sit someone down and say, okay, we're going to find out what your purpose is today, and like that's it. It's going to be a continuous process of you trying to iterate what it is, what you think it is now, what you think it's going to be in a month. How does that make you feel? How does that relate to how you act day to day? And I think the best way to do it, like if you wanted a general guide of, okay, what is going to be my purpose? If I'm going to outline a purpose for everyone, it would be figure out how you can help other people right now, not in 100 years, not in 50 years, not when you've developed all these different skills. Find out how you can help people right now and start doing it. And just take on that responsibility that this is something that I should do with my life. When you start doing that day in, day out, you'll start to open up new opportunities for you to help other people. And I think that, in essence, that's the way that everyone's purpose should be, because that's the most beneficial thing that you can do for yourself. That's the most beneficial way for you to live your life. You can have a purpose of like, my purpose is to become like heavyweight champion, like Mike Tyson, right? But you achieve that, and then what? You're done. He's not at peace. He's not happy with his life. His lifestyle isn't great. He might look great on social media. Like, everyone wanted to be Mike Tyson back then, but if you listen to him talk about his lifestyle now, he hated it. He doesn't like that guy. He doesn't like the way that he was. He doesn't like the way that he acted, and he had to change all of that to become a better person, which is about service to others. So I really feel like that's core, and there's a lot of research that backs that up too. So that's the way that I would suggest actually going about discovering it.
And have you, what position, no, sorry, what, bear with me. When would you say you feel the most confident? Like, what situation are you in that you're like, yeah, I'm really confident right now? And like when you're at your superpower, I guess.
I think, that's interesting actually. That's a good question. Because I was going to say when I'm talking about the things that I've done because they're concrete and I can't change them. That is a fact now. However, I get a new level of excitement and confidence when I'm talking about what I'm going to do. And I think that might even exceed confidence talking about things in the past. And it's usually about like, I don't know, this is difficult. I think I'm quite confident day to day, but the most confident I am is probably when someone challenges me. That's when I get really competitive.
I feel the same. I think when someone says, if someone tells me I can't do it, I need to prove myself that I can do it even more than they ever believed I couldn't.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I was at a boxing training session on Tuesday, and the guy was like, it was 2 sessions. We finished the first session, everyone was exhausted, right? And he's like, do you want to stay for the next one as well? And in my mind, that it pained me so much. I had a meeting at 6. I couldn't do it, but it pained me so much to not be able to sit there and be like, I'm gonna look you in the eyes, I'm gonna do this. Just because you challenged us, like, it brings out a new level of like, nah, it's on now. Like I'm ready to go. So yeah, I think that is probably when I'm most confident as well. Then
when it pays off as well.
Oh mate,
sweet victory.
What a feeling.
Yeah, that's true. What would you say is the biggest risk you've ever taken, and did it pay off?
That's difficult.
Did you find fear in setting up your business?
No.
Like the day where you were like, click, this is it. No. Setting up your Instagram page or...
No. I think Jim Rohn said it best when he said, it's all risky. Doing something is risky. Not doing something is also risky. Which risk are you going to take? And I actually think it would be more risky for me to not do anything with my life. It would be more risky for me to not take opportunities. So everything that I've done, that's actually minimal risk. It's actually the least risk I possibly could have took by orienting myself to the best good I could possibly do.
Yeah, I got some really good advice recently, which is never plan your life. Just put yourself in opportunities where you can take on like new directions that you might want to. Like put yourself in a place where you can always take new opportunities. So you don't need to have like this master plan of like where you're going to go and where you're going to end up. Because I think there's a lot of like culture that kind of says that we should know exactly what we're going to do and like know our 5-year plan or kind of, you know what our life goals are. But
have you got a 5-year plan?
No,
or any life goals
God,
or anything
no.
like that?
That's what I mean. Like, I think hearing that advice almost made me feel like, oh God, I'm okay that I don't know what it is I want to do. Because, I mean, I'm very indecisive as a person. So one day I'll be like, oh, that sounds like a really fun thing that I want to do. And then the next time I'm like, God, couldn't think of anything worse.
It's crazy because you're one of many people who are in the situation where it's like, you finish uni and you're thinking, well, I'm going to go into a corporate job, but I don't like the corporate life. I don't like not being in control. I don't like the 9 to 5. I don't like the mundane work. So I'm going to set up my own business. I'm going to start something different. I'm going to do something like that. And I think that the inspiration behind that is great, right? If you're not happy with something, don't settle. Try and make your own thing. But the problem that a lot of people have is that, and I'm not saying that this is going to be the case for you, but people say like, I don't like the 9 to 5 work, so I'm going to start my own business. I start my own business, I have to work crazy hours.
You work more than 9 to 5.
Literally. Everyone else that works a corporate job, they go home at 5 o'clock, they chill with their family, they've got the evenings free, they've got the weekends free. Not me. Not for the past 2 years, 2-3 years that I've been doing this. I haven't had that. So if you're going to start a business, then you have to really think through like what are you doing. And of course, there's different ways to start a business. You can put in as much or as little work as you want when you first start out. But when it comes to actually being responsible for a business, if you're not responsible as an individual already, if you're not responsible enough for a 9 to 5, you're probably not responsible enough for a corporate job. And not to say that you can't develop the skills, but you have to think about, okay, look, is there work to be done on myself before I take on this endeavor?
I think that's what I am doing now.
Yeah, I think you're doing a very good job at it. Because yeah, a lot of people literally just go in, they start a business, they don't have the know-how, they don't have the connections, they don't fully develop the skill set that they need for it, and it sets them back, and then they get upset, and then they think, oh, this business thing, it's too hard, I can't do it. And the truth is, you probably could have done it, but the approach that you took to doing it wasn't the strongest that it could have been.
Yeah.
I think there's actually a very famous talk as well from Eric Thomas, and he talks about how if you want to be successful, you've got to want it as bad as you want to breathe. Right? And it's very like motivational, like kind of like extreme talk and things like that. But the point of it is that when things are that extreme, you'll find a way. So I had this conversation with someone as well. Like I was like, imagine if I just punch you on the arm lightly, right? Obviously I wouldn't, but like imagine I did. Right? You might go, that hurts, right? And then you might go and tell someone, you might be complaining, right? But if I actually I feel bad saying this, you know? But if I genuinely like, punch you properly, right? You're not going to be like, this hurt. You're not going to be complaining. You're going to be punching back, right? and that's the thing. Like sometimes people are just hurt enough to complain, but they're not hurt enough to do something about it. And I think, like when you're drowning to that point where it's like, I need to figure out how to do something, then that's almost like an optimal stress level to have.
Yeah. I've actually really struggled with getting stressed, like more than is probably normal. Do you deal with that? Like, do you have any stress management tips or anything?
Yeah, I think
because I think I'm just someone like, and I realize it now. Like, I'm just someone who is just very easily stressed. Like, I think, and stress isn't always a bad thing, but I think like obviously overstress is a bad thing. Do you have any like tips for dealing with stress, like healthily, I guess?
So on a stress scale, there's like, this is getting dangerous, right? I need to actually do something about it. A lot of the time it's like the stress is an indication for something that needs to change. If it's like something that's constantly there, then you need to like evaluate like what's going on and be like, okay, like something needs to change. If you're stressed to the point where you're like completely overwhelmed, what I do is firstly get out of my environment. I'll evaluate my thoughts, even though it sounds weird to say and it's hard to keep a cool head when you're stressed, but I'd evaluate and think, okay, why am I stressed? Why am I feeling like this? Do I need to be stressed about this? Is this a short-term stress that in a year I'm not going to care about? Do that. And then I also exercise. So like a walk allows me to do all three of those things at the same time. I change my environment. I do some sort of activity like that's actually like, it takes my mind off like just thinking.
The here and now.
Yeah, exactly. And then the final one is like, while I'm walking, I can just think about, okay, why was I so stressed about that? Is there something that I need to be doing? And even if you know that there's something that you need to be doing, be like, why am I choosing to be stressed? Because it's hard for people to digest this, but it is a choice to be stressed. And
I feel very called out. I feel very attacked.
No, you should. No, but the reason why it's a choice is it's only a choice if you know that it's because you have bad stress management and if you know the tools to fix your stress management. But if you're just stressed all the time and you're not actually figuring out how to deal with it, because there's plenty of people that aren't stressed, that have difficulties, that have more difficulties than you do, but your stress management isn't up to scratch, right? So then, okay, how can we work on stress management? And of course, it's different for other people. You've got to have maybe something different to what I would have, but there's general practices that work for everyone. So if you're someone that's getting very stressed, you need to think about, well, what stress management techniques am I currently using? How can I improve them? Or how can I go find someone else that I can copy or relate to and figure out what they're doing to deal with their stresses so I don't feel the same way?
I think for me as well, because I've just been recently diagnosed with ADHD. So I think a lot of the things that, like the way my brain works, it makes sense now. But like at the time I was like, why am I like this? Yeah. And like, is it just like, why is it just me? And like, you know, you kind of feel a little bit singled out, I guess. But yeah, when, especially like, because now I know that that's something my brain works differently. So I think finding like the community of people who can share best practices as well, that works for me. So I would say, yeah, that's my 2 pence on it.
Yeah, I mean, of course, if you've got ADHD, it's going to be harder for you to control your thoughts and things like that, which is one of the main 3 stress management techniques I use. So for you, it's going to require a lot more practice, and I don't know exactly how that would look, but it's still the best solution that we have rather than just like overthinking yourself into
Yeah.
more stress.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course it's different for everyone. But yeah, I guess it's one of those things where you got to work around.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just adapting it so that it basically plays to my strengths rather than like someone who's got a normal brain.
Yeah. I see a lot of people talk about like, oh, I have ADHD, and people like say it's a bad thing, but I've used it to get this done. I've used it to work like this.
It really, like, obviously everything in life has its strengths and weaknesses. I think you could go and like sit and kind of wallow and be like, ugh, like these are all the things that is essentially like shit about having it. And then you kind of look at it on the other kind of side and you're like, but it makes me really good at this, or it makes me, like, for me, it like, that's how I'm so creative. And I think that comes as like a part of, that's the way my brain works. So I'm fairly good at problem solving, and that's because my brain kind of works in that way that I know like other people kind of don't have that I guess that creative spin on things. Yeah. That's why I think it's so important to me to have a job where that I can kind of pull that strength out of me and contribute that, because I know that that's sort of my added value. That was another thing that kind of in this year I wanted to find what is my added value.
Yeah. What's your USP?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what can I bring to a team that I know others might not necessarily be able to?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's probably the top thing that will be coming out of this year. So stay tuned. But yeah, have you got anything else that you would like to share before we kind of wrap this episode up?
Yeah, so if you've listened to this episode and you feel like, I'm still a little bit confused about how I can find my purpose, you want to have a bit of a deeper conversation, more personalized, then you can head to our website and you can book in a call with myself or someone else on the team that can help you actually walk you through figuring out what your purpose is, figuring out maybe why your confidence isn't as strong as you would like it to be. And we can give you the support, we can point you in the right direction. Like, I'm very passionate about helping, hopefully it's come through in the episode, but I'm very passionate about doing what I can with the tools that I have. So even if like I can't help you all the way, I'll definitely like point you in the right direction. I'll definitely give you articles to read. I'll tell you books that have helped me, and any way that I can help you and support you, I'm more than happy to do that. So if you are struggling, then definitely do reach out and I'll be more than happy to help.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on. I've really, really enjoyed this episode.
No worries, man. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.